Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and excited to have with me today Ingrid Helander. So welcome, Ingrid.
Hi, Teri. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here today.
Yeah, I was just telling you before we started recording that I stalked your website, and I love what I see, and I love the idea of your ebook. So talk to us about what it is you do. And I didn't do your intro of, what did I say? Therapist, teacher, group leader, author. And I added teacher only because, I think what you do is teaching.
Thanks. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So, you wanted to talk about a little about what I do. That was the question before.
Yes.
Checking in. When you looked at my website, you probably saw my book. And it's called Calm Your Worries, Unlock Your Secret Code to Lasting Stress Relief and Self-Confidence. And I wrote it after being in private practice and therapy practice for almost 20 years now, and raising my children and coming from a long line of worriers and being one myself. I supervise a lot of therapists, and they would come into my office and they would say, just don't give me clients who have anxiety. That makes me crazy. I just don't enjoy working with it, blah, blah, blah. I don't get it. And I'd be like, oh, those are my people. What are you talking about? That's my faves. How can you even not want to work with people who worry? And I think because my concept of people who worry is that they care. You know, these are people who care deeply and whose neurobiology, whose mindset has just gotten a little taken over by that.
Yeah.
You know, one thing you can't say about people who worry is that they don't give a rip.
Right.
They care.
It's so true.
Yeah. And I feel like so often people who worry, I don't want to over dramatize it, because I know that there are people, and I've worked with these people who are suffering from extreme PTSD, terrible, horrible traumas, severe biological anxiety disorders. And I'm not minimizing that at all, or saying that this is the same. However, it can feel so tough for a person who chronically worries to not be able to be heard about that. When you talk to somebody about, oh, I'm really worried about this, the tendency for friends and loved ones is to say, what are you worried about?
Right.
You look great. You look great.
Let it go.
You've made it. You've done it a million times. Look how successful you are. Look how attractive you are. Look how many friends you have. And inside, that person feels like you don't get it at all. Right? So now I'm even more worried because I don't make any sense, and I put people off with my own worry. So it's this vicious cycle that gets set up for people. And so I really decided, I've studied many different models of therapy as a family therapist, because that's what we do. And the two that I've landed on that I love in particular are internal family systems therapy by Richard Schwartz, and Polyvagal Theory, which is not a form of therapy, but has been brought into the therapy room by a woman named Deb Dana. And those two together, along with just kind of who I am and what I do, I found to be exceptionally helpful for people who have chronic worry. And so I started writing about it and sort of melding those together and talking to people about worry. And it's been so exciting because I know it's helped me. I know it's helped my clients, and it can help other people too.
Yeah, I love it. And I totally get it. I have a CPTSD diagnosis from my own trauma history from horrific 22 years of life. But
right.
So much of my time worrying, which made me perfectionistic.
Yes.
Because, that control thing, if I could try to control everything, then it wouldn't be so overwhelming and cause me so much anxiety and worry.
Exactly. Yeah, and in my language, that perfectionism, that controller part, is a part of you, right? And so when you can have respect for that part of you and recognize it's just trying to help you out, right? It just thinks no one will be able to criticize you, right? And you'll be in control, And nothing will go wrong if you just be perfect.
Exactly.
Just do it just right. Yeah. And for those of us who sort of, I don't know if you follow the Enneagram, but that's kind of an interesting, typology. And those of us who are type 1, which tend to be the perfectionists, right, sort of fall into that very naturally.
Yeah.
Like, I like to do things well. I like to have high expectations for myself. And all of a sudden it's eating you up.
Right.
And without trying, it's not a fault. I think that's my biggest message to people who worry. You're not broken.
Right.
There's no that perfectionism and that, people say, oh, I'm far from perfect. That's not what perfectionism is it?
Yeah.
It's that constant striving and self-criticism and vigilance,
Yes.
But it's not trying to hurt you. And it isn't a bad thing if it's sort of within your own relationship inside. You have a good relationship to it. Yeah.
Very good. I'm a 2, or the helper. Is that a 2?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. A 2, and you might have a 1 wing then, right? I don't know that much about. I don't want to sell myself as an
I know. I got to think.
I do love it. I think it's so great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing because it's unbelievably accurate. When I read I have the book. Actually, I have 2 of the books, and oh my gosh, as I read like Deepest Fear, what the deepest fear is, and I was just like, oh my gosh,
it's like bing, 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 bing. Yeah, there I am. Well, it has been around for thousands of years, so I suppose that they know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Great stuff.
So you explain, on your website that you have your own history with it, and I love the idea that those of us who have been through something then take what we've experienced and turn it into a positive to help others. So kudos to you for doing that and helping others along their healing journey. Just beautiful.
Thanks. I don't think you can really do it unless you have been there.
Right.
And, I think that's the gift of struggle.
Yeah.
That it just opens us to other people. Every struggle I've ever had in life, whether it's been worry or, pregnancy issues or, marital issues or whatever it is, parenting, the struggles are what connect me to other people, and getting through them and understanding them, that brings people to you and makes you more human and helpful, So I'm pretty grateful for all of that, at least at this stage of my life. I can't say it's always been great. That would be weird.
The gift within the chaos that
That's right.
we eventually, like, not necessarily in the moment, but we eventually find the gift, the lessons learned within it.
Yeah, for sure. And how strong we are. Really, humans are amazing.
Yeah.
Just the resilience and the ability to grow beyond, I just think about people's stories that have sobered me so through the years. And it's such an honor to witness those and to see the amazing strengths and capabilities that come out of them. And when you're with someone that's in the middle of one and they can't see it, you just have such a heart for wanting them to recognize, oh, but look at you, look how amazing you are.
Right.
I just, and when they do, that moment is spectacular, like nothing else,
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, are you involved in, do you utilize ACEs and experience?
I know what you're talking about. I don't tend to do a lot of those measures, but how the high stress and the how many, right? Is that what you're talking about? That scaling of
how it just has such a profound impact on people as far as like the anxiety they experience, almost like it becomes, like you said, a part of them. It is a part
of them. Yeah. And it has, internal family systems is so amazing to work with around anxiety and trauma and things like that, because it literally looks at the inner world as an inner family. And so you have parts that are protective, you have parts that come in that want to, save you from whatever, not from the outside world particularly, but really from parts inside that have been deemed scary or unacceptable or too painful. And so it's amazing. I love it so much. And
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, I have to say, I've never felt like, oh no, I'm not going to make it as a therapist, but I can see why therapists who don't practice body-centered models, and especially something like IFS, burn out, because being able to understand really what's going on inside, to use it for your own parts while you're working with someone else, and calm, we feel each other, right?
Yeah.
And not to get caught in that fix-it trap with clients, but to understand they have the capability. You can just be curious about it and help them to find their way, is so energizing. It's such a different experience than feeling like the answer person or the fix-it person all the time, because that really isn't true.
Right.
We can't fit, it's not, we can't fix other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Although my personality is, to be the fixer. So
exactly right. Well, and a lot of us in the helping professions, that is exactly who we are, for sure. Right. Yeah, I've got a lot of two about me. I love to take care of people, and I love to know.
Yeah.
And I love to tell people. And I think that's why I do love what I'm doing now, because I do know a little something about polyvagal theory. I'm not the expert. Stephen Porges is the expert. Deb Dana is the expert. Janine Fisher is the expert. But I know enough, and I understand the science of it, that I can help it make sense to people, and it's made such sense to me.
Yeah.
So instead of, getting an anxious feeling now and going, oh no, I'm really in trouble, or there's something wrong with me, or making some kind of story, the first thing I can do is take a breath and understand exactly where in my nervous system this feeling is coming from, as much as I can understand it, right?
Right.
And then have a sense of what to do with that on a body form. Just as if I would feel super hungry, I wouldn't go, oh no, this has a moral meaning. I'm hungry. Well, I might if I just ate, I suppose. Then I'd be like, I'm kind of a pig, but no, that would be bad, right? But you would tend to go, I'm hungry. How long has it been since I ate? What am I needing? Okay, I can feel it. You wouldn't make a story about it, generally. And so I think the same thing applies to things like worry. Where do you feel it in your body? What's happening for you?
Yeah.
And first noticing it purely as a body experience, blameless. We're supposed to have nervous system, sensation.
Right.
That happens all day long.
Normal.
All day long.
Right.
Yep. Am I safe? Am I dangerous? Did someone make a funny face at me?
Yeah.
Did that scare me a little? Did that make me think? Just noticing, okay, wait, my body picked up a signal. What am I doing with it?
Yeah.
And then to go from there, you can get in deeper and go, and what part of me is activated? And how can I be with that part of me? Just as I would be with a child or someone I loved.
I love it. And two things popped out at me. One, you said the words just noticing twice. And my therapist, I went through EMDR therapy.
Oh yeah, great therapy. Yeah,
for 4 years and lots and lots, 98 sessions. But man, did we work through a lot of trauma.
Yay.
But one of the most powerful lessons she taught me was just notice. When I would be sitting in a session and we would be going back into one of my traumas, and a panic attack would be arising, and I'd be sobbing and shaking and all of that. And she would just calmly remind me, one, that I was grounded, two, just notice. And it was that same sort of thing. And then the other thing is, I'm so intrigued by this because I'm that person that loves to fill my toolbox with. So I'm going to have to dive deep into this, because I had not heard of, is it internal family
systems therapy? Yeah, by Richard Schwartz.
Okay.
It is. It's been around for quite some time, and I've been working with it. I learned it actually in my master's program when I went back to school after my kids were in school, and so that would have been way back in early 2000.
Okay.
So it's been around well before that. But
awesome.
It's also it's got research. It's research based. It's got SAMHSA behind it. Bessel van der Kolk, who you may have heard of in your trauma work. Yeah, he has that in his book. The Body Keeps the Score, I love that book. Very fantastic book, and you can read a little bit about IFS in there. It's it is one of his faves for working with trauma. And I just think everybody has little t trauma, right? Whether, people have big T, but these little parts of us inside don't know the difference. I mean, some of the parts I've met inside me that I go, that's what you were, that was the worry. Oh my goodness. It could be, now it seems silly, but in my system inside, when things get pushed away for 5, 10, 15, 20, sometimes 50 years, that behind that door can feel pretty frightening. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So, lots of times with IFS, we'll find, this great, oh no, I can't go there. I hate that feeling. I hate that part. I hate that sensation in the body. But once they can have compassion for it, and they, it's like opening the door and there's a child there. And they go, oh, hey, I thought you were a big, huge monster. And, oh, you're just a baby, So, yeah, it's quite miraculous work. Yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful vision and way to put it. Yes. And I get it. I think I've done that a few times where I've been like, oh.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry, you're really pretty cute. Yeah. We're just hurting. But, when you grow up fearing those feelings. Yeah. Wow. And it's important, I think, for children to start, hopefully we are, I don't know, a little better than back in the day where we would just tell kids to be quiet and stop crying and go, where we're helping them to notice their own bodies and what's happening in there, because it's not just about your mind. The body has its own brain, and honestly, the brain in the body communicates up probably more to the brain more than the other way around. And I say probably, I know it's true for the vagus nerve, the ventral vagus nerve, it's 80% up from the body.
Wow.
Yeah. And only 20% of the messages go down the vagus nerve. So that tells us we usually feel first, right?
Yeah.
And what do you do when you feel first, And I think the more, and I think that worriers tend to like to know.
Yes.
Right?
I only laugh because I get it. Yes.
Yeah, I feel you. I do too. And, for years, when I would worry, people would just, roll their eyes, or they get like, you know better than this, or, this, buck up, or you can do it. And to just accept their words without knowing, now I can see why it doesn't work without blaming me at all. I can see very clearly, science-based and therapy-wise, why that doesn't work, and it wasn't my fault.
Right.
Why someone couldn't just give me advice and I take it and go with it, because you can't. And when you're in your sympathetic nervous system, right, that fight, flight, freeze, which you, I'm sure, know tons about.
Yes.
You're no more able to receive a charged, positive message than you would be if you were laying on the floor having a seizure and someone said, get up and walk away. Right?
Yeah.
You're in a nervous system state that would not permit your body to just do that. Just switch and go on.
Right.
No way. No way.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not your fault. Your body's wise. It knows what it's doing. Yeah.
Yes. I used to tell people that with panic attacks, I truly had no control over what was happening in my body.
That's right.
The physical sensations, the racing thoughts.
No.
As much
as involuntary.
As much as my logical brain would be like, oh my gosh, Teri, you're fine. The bridge is not going to fall. The light's going to change in any second and you're going to get off this bridge. My brain would be like, how do I get off? How do I get off? It's, I'm going to die. And
yeah. And really the logical mind is offline at that point.
Right.
Oh, yeah, and if anything, if it's shouting at you, it's going to feel like more danger, isn't it? Right. Yeah. So there you go. You got that cycle that's just swirling you down worse and worse and worse, lower and lower, not trying to hurt you. That logical mind wasn't trying to hurt you, right?
Right.
The logical mind that's saying, you're okay, is really trying, but it's ineffective. In fact, it probably polarizes the rest of you into, you really don't see how dangerous this is. Let me feel it stronger. Let me tell you louder.
Yeah.
Right? So,
listen to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why it's worse,
Right.
That's why it's worse. So when I set out and started boiling down everything to write this into a book, it was so, I realized, wow, the more you practice this, the better it is.
Yeah.
So it's like yoga in that way, or exercising in that way. You tone your nervous system and you tone your habits, and the practice of being with your parts inside becomes more like breathing than an effort,
Yeah.
And it just gets better and better and better, which got me so excited, because I think about, anybody that starts today has started a seed that will just grow and grow and grow for the rest of their lives. I'm
Right.
convinced, right? For the rest of their life.
Yeah.
So that just thrills me. That just
I love it.
delights me.
I had, I think one of the shifts too for me was when I started to develop a gentle curiosity towards what was happening in my body, instead of looking at it as something so horrific to fear, like, oh my God, I'm starting to feel that sensation. Oh,
exactly.
Right. That I started to be like, recently I went in July my son moved to Denver in early 2018. And so I hadn't been out to see him. So normally I had to take Xanax to fly starting the day before, because it would just be, I would be overwhelmed with worry, anxiety, panic,
Yeah.
This time I decided I'm going to fly without Xanax, and I'm going to look at this as an adventure. Well, as we were sitting on the flight waiting.
Well, there's the word. I'm going to look at this as an adventure. That sparks curiosity immediately, right?
Yes, exactly.
So cool.
I was like, anything that happens, I'm just going to like absorb it, take it on, see what happens. So I'm sitting on the flight. We're sitting on the tarmac in Cincinnati waiting for our flight to take off. And I noticed just my right arm had this like crazy tingling sensation, like just like all the panic in my body was just in this one spot. And
so cool.
I was like, I looked at my my daughter, and I was like, this is so crazy. Like, what? I'm only feeling it, but I was like, this is amazing. Like, all my pain.
What a cooperative system. Yeah.
Right. And so I almost found it amusing and fun, because I thought, I
love this.
Last for the whole flight. I wonder if it's just,
oh my gosh,
off.
That's right. I wonder.
Yeah.
What did you ever get any more info from that arm? That sounds like a crazy question, probably.
Every time I flew, we flew to Denver, we flew home from Denver. Then in the next week, we flew down to South Carolina for a girls' trip that I had already planned. And then flew back. And every time, I'm telling you, it was the weirdest thing, like that one spot.
Listen, with IFS work, one of the jokes is you can't make this stuff up.
Right.
Right? You just can't. You can't believe it when you're feeling something so strong. I mean, I've got this curious part that says, oh, I would love to get in there and help you to listen to the arm. I mean, right now, you did everything you needed to do, and it was so unbelievably perfect. But that arm, now you have a relationship, right? Yeah. You've welcomed it. Yeah. You've been like compassionate with it and curious with it. And that's amazing. And then really that arm knows. The neurons in that arm know what's going on. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
I even
that's
said to
great.
Somebody, I said, I wonder if one point in my life, like during a moment that my dad may have, because my dad was very abusive for the first 10 years, and grabbed a hold of my arm and maybe yanked me up or something. And it's just a body memory, which I've learned a lot about. And so, I looked at it like, oh, maybe it's a body memory. And I even said, hi, Dad, because we worked through healing and got to a place of forgiveness. But I was like a dad spot. Not that it was a good memory, but it's a body memory, and my body's reminding me of something.
For real. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, what I do is with IFS, and what good IFS therapists do is literally help you to connect to that part and hear directly from it.
Oh, that's so
you
cool.
Don't have to wonder, you can sit with curiosity, but you can it's amazing. And that especially when you have that body sensation so clearly, it's right there. You don't have to go searching around, where do I feel this? Exactly. It's telling you loud and clearly.
Oh yeah.
But I love that it sort of got out of your core and moved to a peripheral space where it was manageable too.
Yes.
Isn't that neat?
I know.
Yeah. You have such a compassionate system.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a great story.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you
It's the
for
first time
sharing
I
it. That's
shared it.
fun.
So.
That's big. It's so big. Yeah. And sometimes doing IFS work, when I've been on the sort of the receiving end and doing my own work, I would be feeling my heart like, like, holy cow. And, these little thoughts are crossing my mind. And I thought about it with your arm, like, well, maybe I am having a heart attack. Maybe this is a perfect worry statement, right? Maybe
Right.
this is actually a heart attack, and everyone else who's practicing in the group is not having a similar sensation. I'm just going to drop dead right now,
Oh, right. Gosh, yes.
and then I would find, no, actually it's not. It's just that those parts of our bodies, when we're connected to them,
Yeah.
really show up, and they will really, show us all kinds of feeling and emotion and sensation. And then there's of course connection that you can have beyond that. But,
Right.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
I love it. You've helped me add, an amazing, new perspective to my toolbox. So wonderful.
Yeah. Great. I'm happy about that. And you have a great toolbox, clearly.
Yeah. Well, I've
This
done,
is
oh my
fun.
gosh. I mean, like brain plasticity stuff is amazing to
Yeah.
me. And, EFT, like tapping stuff, and
Yes.
Ho'oponopono,
Yeah.
Hawaiian healing. I mean, I just think
Yeah.
there's so many things that, we can use, like you said, to help us just become in tune with what our body is trying to tell us. And
Exactly.
yeah.
And as you're naming these things, what I'm really grateful for now is that there is a lot of technology that shows this is not woo-woo.
Right.
There's certainly woo-woo feeling about it. Let me tell you, when you're talking about your arm, I'm sure some people would go, that's
No.
nice, Teri. Woo, but
Oh,
you can't, when neurology can actually now go in and track things and MRI things,
yeah.
that's why Bessel van der Kolk's work is so important, and other, Stephen Porges that does the science behind things. Like, this is not made up.
No.
This is ancient wisdom based on reality that now, through many of our tech applications, we can see,
Yeah.
and that word, this, and the, a lot of the ancient wisdom was right. It was right.
Yeah.
There's reasons for it, So, and again, warriors typically like to know, you don't want to be just being led down some little woo-woo path and, disappointed at the end.
Right.
So it's great to know, no, this is real stuff. This is no joke.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw one of my favorite podcast questions because I love the answer. So if you could meet anyone in the world, dead or alive, to help you with your mission, whether it's or your continued journey, either personal or professional, who would it be?
Wow. I always have trouble with like one choice. Like, what's your favorite movie? One choice? Wow.
Well, you can give more than one.
All right, I probably can't, but let me see. If I could meet anyone to help me with my journey, is that the question?
Yeah.
I would, honestly, it's sort of a simple answer, but I think I would like to go back and re-meet my grandparents as an adult.
Yeah.
I often feel them, feel their influence, and certainly their genetics in my life and in my children's lives. And yet I was very young when my grandfathers died, and I was older when my grandmothers died, but I didn't have an adult to adult relationship with them.
Yeah.
And I would love to go back and just ask them more questions and, get more of what their past and their ancestors were like, and kind of just have that experience. I think that would be really insightful and heartwarming for me. I think that would feel great. I think of them a lot. So, yeah,
that's beautiful. I love that.
yeah.
I get a friend of mine is, I don't know, a medium. I don't know. She gets messages.
Yeah.
She'll give me messages from I just felt a tickle on my cheek. She always tells me my grandmother's touching my cheek and my shoulder.
Oh my gosh.
It's weird.
That's awesome. Yeah, you're kind of going, oh, uh-oh.
I have goosebumps.
I love it. Me too.
I know. But so I was going to talk about my one grandma, my mom, or my dad's mom, Grandma Kitty, oh my God, she was such a powerful
Mm.
influence in my life. But my Grandma Mary, I didn't really know very well. And so my friend has been telling me, she's giving you messages recently. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I found out some stories about her from my mom, who's starting to, at 83, deal with her past all of a sudden. And like she's
Wow.
finally opening up about the horrific things that she had dealt with in her childhood, and started to tell
Whew.
me things that I didn't know about her mother. And I was just like
Wow.
blown away at,
Wow.
like my grandmother, I guess, had 2 infants that died. I didn't know that, like in
Oh,
birth, and they died
yes,
soon
yes.
after birth. And she always
Yeah.
had such sad eyes to me. And
Yeah.
oh my gosh,
Oh,
I get what you're saying, because I'd love to sit down with her now as an adult
yeah.
and just
Yeah.
one, hug her and kiss on her and love on her and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry for what I
Yeah.
went through. I had no idea. But
Yeah.
just to kind of honor her. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I think that today that's what feels right to me.
Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Well, thank you. It's a great
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
All right. Any myths or facts that you'd like to clarify for listeners about,
Mm.
worry or anxiety or whatever it is?
Yeah, maybe. I think one that I just think is very important and maybe obvious to some folks, but not to worry, I don't think, is that worry is never trying to harm you. People are like, I hate it. It's just making my life miserable, which is true. I'm not disagreeing, but no part of you is ever trying to hurt you. And we never want to rid ourselves of any parts of ourselves, but we do want to unburden them so that we can live happy and successful lives and what we would call self-led lives, right? Our core self. So yeah, no part of you is ever trying to hurt you, no matter how drastic it can look.
Right.
Okay. It can look really, I mean, parts of us can physically do terrible things to us. We know that's true. People suicide, people over
Right.
drink, but the part itself that's inspiring that is truly in its own bizarre way trying to help you. It just
Yes.
it has no guidance to do that. It's trying to do it completely alone. So that's one thing. Um, and then second, um, that worry isn't your fault, and it isn't a fault of your body. You are biologically sound. You really are. And I know that there's extreme situations when biology, through somebody talked the other day on the radio about somebody getting a virus that entered through their eye and went straight to their brain, and they became psychotic. And it was a fascinating
Wow.
story. It was great. It was on NPR. And I thought, well, yeah, there are biological things
Right.
that can happen to us. But for the general chronic worry, this is not because you're made wrong. You really aren't. You're really a sound human being. That's not a fault in biology. And yes, you are right that if you could have just snapped out of it, you would have. You are not foolish. You're not naive. You don't lack what other people have. Okay. If you could have just said, I'm going to change my mind and do this differently, you would have already done that.
Right.
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 Yeah. So you don't need to keep beating up on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
You're
so
okay.
very true. And again,
And there is hope. And
yeah.
really, I really want to assure people that you can still be you. You can still have the same kinds of energies and emotions and personality that you have, which for a lot of us that worry, that's part of us, right? Like,
Right.
and I was thinking the other day about like the old shows, and of course they're comedy, but you think about Mary Tyler Moore and her, and
Yeah.
Don Knotts back in my childhood, who was always, you know, anxious and worried, and Eddie Murphy, and I can't remember the name of the movie he was in, but he was just freaked out about that was always kind of comic and tender and sweet, and you love those people, right?
Yes.
The worried, and we love that in ourselves too. It's not a personality flaw. It's just being able to incorporate it into your whole self so that it doesn't cause you suffering anymore,
Yes.
right? And
Right.
so that it's not stepping in when it doesn't need to be there at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have a personality transplant to feel better.
Right. Right. And the beautiful thing is that, you know, there's healing and there's hope for
That's right.
being able to, you know, like you said, look at what is happening and take healing measures.
Yeah, and truly feel better.
Yeah,
Really, because the cycle of worry creates a lack of self-confidence, a lack of self-trust, which breeds lack of being able to trust others, right?
right.
The whole perfectionism that is just, that's a path into self-criticism, other criticism, and feeling like outside of everyone because
Yeah,
you just place. So that's why I think I really do want to offer that sense of hope to people because it's not like, oh, I have a little worry, so big deal. If you have a fair amount of chronic worry, it is a big deal
right.
because it cycles into every area of your life. You might not have chosen that career, or you might be passing lots of anxieties on to your children inadvertently, or your relationships might be just fraught with struggle and lack of connection. And I think the one of the bases can be simple worry that you can help. And I really, really believe that.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
And once I think, you know, you learn coping skills and you learn, you know, go through work with a therapist such as yourself or whatever it is that helps you almost awaken to it,
Yeah,
and then be cognizant of it. Like I'll catch myself worrying and falling back into old habitual patterns, but then I can
sure.
stop myself and be like, no, we're gonna redirect here, and
Yeah,
then just take a more positive approach. And but I
yeah,
had to learn that, and it was quite a process
right.
to be
And
able.
it's not, yeah. And I would suggest, that it is learning, yes, but I know you've done lots of EMDR, right? You said,
Right.
and that's beneath learning, right? Because when you worry, it's not for for
Oh,
often, it
true.
isn't lack for learning, right? It isn't
Yes.
lack for intellect or the ability. I read that book on the power of positive thinking. What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
So it is a body thing. You
Yeah.
have to get in there. Um, I can help you. Other people can help, not you, but your audience.
Right.
And and um, it is it's you won't need as many coping skills, right? Because you unburden these things. They heal.
Yes.
That's why I love the name of your show. And I was like, I want to be on this show because parts literally, when led through this process, they literally heal.
Right.
They shed the burdens that they're carrying, which are what's informing what's happening inside you. And it doesn't mean you're multi-personality. It doesn't mean you're crazy. We all have multitudes inside. Walt Whitman said that, right? I have multitudes inside. This is not new information. We're not just one way. You wake up in the morning, one part of you wants to get out of bed and part of you would just soon stay there, right?
Right.
We don't have just one thing at a time. Like you're not one whole thing, right? We have lots of different parts of us that inform our thinking different ways. And when they get burdened, that creates a system that makes life difficult. So, the neat thing about this process is coping skills are only as effective as you yourself is available.
True.
And yeah, and so when these exiled parts are pushed away and carrying burdens, and there's a whole system of protection around that, be perfect or worry or
Right.
drink or whatever people are doing, right? Overwork or whatever. It's nice to add in another manager would be to say just cope, right? Another manager would come in and say, okay, now I will do A, B, and C. But if to actually get under those and heal that little exile part, let
Yeah.
it release that and come into a good relationship inside you, then you don't need as many little ticks of the boxes to make sure you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Brilliant.
it takes some time, but it is brilliant. That's Richard Schwartz. He's a brilliant
Yeah.
man. Yeah, yeah,
And it brings me back to that same sensation of like being on the bridge in a panic attack, where before I had done the healing work, before I was able to get in there and process things that had been never
right.
processed as a child because I didn't know how to process them. And
That's right.
yeah, and I finally was able to process it correctly and release that negative energy.
Right.
Then I was able to change the habitual patterns and bring coping
Yeah.
skills.
Yeah. Right. Now I can read books and they're
Yeah.
full of positivity and beautiful, poems about life and even about worry. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, in my 20s, I would have been like,
Right.
screw you. Wrong.
Yep. Nope. Not happening.
Right? No, I'm not having this. This is like, la, 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 I'm glad you're so happy. I'm miserable, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, you can't receive that until there's been some healing. But
Yeah.
there can be healing. There can be healing. There is
Definitely.
healing. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. So how do people get a hold of you?
Oh, it's not too hard. I have a website.
Okay.
It's my name. It's Ingrid Y. Helander, lmft.com. So that's INGRIDYHE1LANDER, LMFT. So they could go there. They can just look up calmyourworries.com. That will take them to the information about my book, which is really easy to remember. Just calmyourworries.com. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Pinterest. I'm on LinkedIn.
Oh my
I'm
gosh,
out
that's
there.
me.
You can Google me, right? Yeah. And yeah, and if you see me on Facebook or Instagram too, and on the first page of my website, as you scroll, you'll see that I have a newsletter available for nothing, so people can get kinds of hints and tips and writing about this process and about their worry. And so I'm happy to have people join my newsletter and go to my website and click on the little pop up and it'll take you there. And I'm also starting this fall. I'm starting an 8-week course on calming worries, and it's a
Oh,
personalized
wonderful.
program. Yeah, and I'm super excited about this because I truly believe it's going to do what an hour a week in the office cannot do, because it's going to offer lessons that people can watch over and over and over again, and worksheets that they can work on in their own time, in their own space, and go back and revisit it, as well as coaching times with me.
Very.
So I'm very excited, and people can, you'll see that on my website and of course on Facebook and Instagram as well. So yeah,
Wonderful.
lots of ways to reach me. I'm would love to hear from your people anytime, and get the book and let me know what you think and how it feels. Anybody that's listening. Yeah, I'd
Wonderful.
love your comments too, and I always learn from people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know I
yeah.
love getting feedback and learning what's working for
Hmm.
people. Yeah. So,
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
all right. Well, we have just a few minutes left. Is there anything else that you wanted to address?
Hmm. I don't think so.
I
I
know
just would
we
like
covered
to
a
say
lot.
thank you. Yeah, we did. I feel like, woo, that was a crash course. But also just really thanking you, Teri, for your work and your obvious love and dedication for what you're doing in your heart. I really feel like, you know, I have this sense of us all kind of making this web
Yeah.
of love and caring around the world. And I'm really excited to see what you're doing and to be a part of it. Thanks for having me. It's
Thank
really,
you. You
really
gave me
fun.
goosies again. So,
Yeah, no joke. Yeah, I can feel it. It's just I really see it like hands just all connecting.
yeah.
So
Well,
hands in
again, and
hands.
thank you for the work you're doing. As I said beforehand, shining the light of hope.
Mm.
And I love the idea. I have over my desk right here, it says vision, and then it's got like a lighthouse and it's shining out over a dark, it's
Ah.
very stormy. And I think of so many of us, you and so many of my guests are just, these beacons, these lighthouses in a stormy world. And
Mm.
this light that you're shining of helping people and guiding them along their healing journey is just, it gets me teary-eyed. I almost choked up there for just a second,
Oh,
but it's very beautiful. So yeah, thank you.
you're welcome. Well, we live in a anxiety-ridden
Yes.
culture, and I think knowing what to do with that is huge right now, how
Yeah.
to help. So I think for those of us who've been there and get it, it's important to share that. I love that you said lighthouse. I also have a free Facebook page called Calm Your Worries Connections that anyone can join, and just comment in on their experience of worry and get little tips and so on. But the picture my husband and I like to sail. And so the picture is the back of my head, but it's a lighthouse.
Oh.
So when you said that, I went, oh, okay. All right, there you go.
Right,
So,
right.
and I love the image. I love the ocean for one thing, just its power and its buoyancy and the way it holds us. And then the lighthouse that is like, human, I'm keeping you safe. I'm lighting up for you. So when you said that, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's Calm Your Worries Connections on Facebook, and people are welcome to join.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'll include links on all of that on the YouTube.
Thanks.
And then when I send out all of the media blasts so people can get to it. So
great. Fun. Yeah. Wonderful.
Everyone, thank you for joining us today on the Healing With Place podcast. And until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.